Now when I heard there was a game that could let me bash baddies and live out my 90s fantasy, I bought it without even thinking about it. From the moment I saw the name of the game, I knew that this was gonna be so badass. These old school beat 'em ups were my shit back in the day. And Path of the Warrior, well, it's a Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, Bad Dudes, Final Fight inspired game that has created a nearly perfect environment where you can get drunk as fuck and punch everything. It's a probiotic soda. I'm too old to be just drinking beer and 10 in the morning. Give me a break. So 90s beat 'em ups were super formulaic and almost boring. The task was simple. Beat things up, rescue good guys or hostages or girls with their hanging out. You walk to the right, you beat up a boss, they start flashing yellow and red, you rinse and repeat. Occasionally you'd get a bonus game where you could like beat up a car or ride a motorcycle or a jet ski or something like that. But overall the idea was simple. Fuck shit up. Now I have a love for these old beat 'em up games. They encompassed most of what I played as a young man in the 90s. I was too stupid to play RPGs and much too impatient as well. But there was always one thing I've been good at, beating things up. So beat 'em ups and fighters were always my go-to for any kind of video game that I wanted to play. If I didn't get to punch something, I didn't want anything to do with it. What's all this text? What's all this text? I'm trying to read. And growing up in this decade, there was no shortage of action-packed beat 'em ups. And yes, it was as cool as everyone makes it seem on TV. Sorry if you missed it. Path of the Warrior completely nails this idea with its over-the-top storyline, creative boss fights, and well-thought-out gameplay. And of course, one of the main reasons I'm focusing on it today is because it gets you moving. The first stage gets you a little warmed up, kicks you through a bar, shows you how to fight, shows you how your watch works, and eventually you fight the boss, who has knives for mohawks. I mean, what could be more 90s than that, having knives for mohawks? I want knives for mohawks. I had to borrow my wife's hairspray to make it even just remotely stand straight up. And all throughout this game, you're using your punches, your kicks, your helicopter kicks, your environmental finishers, just to piece these dudes up. And Mega Man style, if you beat a boss, you get their powers. That's right, baby, give me all those powers. Your special moves are held in your watch, and you can access them as you beat more stuff up. It's just like real life. The more things you beat up, the more prone you are to violence. And the better your violence gets. If that's not retro as f***, I don't know what is. You beat up Knifey Mohawk Man, you can throw knives. The second stage takes you to a roller skate themed area where you beat up women. What, it's the 90s. It wasn't bad back then. Oh God, don't cancel me, please. What I mean is, equal rights is in full swing with every 90s beat 'em up. You beat up men and you beat up women. Just look at these clips from Double Dragon and Final Fight. You think these women aren't spared from these hammer hands? I don't think so. Roller skates and roller blades are like a quintessential part of the 90s. If you didn't have a pair of these fruity boots, I didn't want to be seen with you. Ugh, what a nerd. But don't worry, speaking of beating up women, you beat up women of all sizes. So it's actually a progressive kind of game when you think about it. It's very inclusive. Eventually you meet up with these sisters. They're twins, I think. Why wouldn't they be twins? They whip each other around and force you to dodge their different attacks. Then eventually, you shut down that rink for good. But one thing I forgot to mention earlier is the mini games. After every stage, you get a little mini game area where you get to play, and it's actually really fun. If you complete all the mini games, you actually get a bonus at the end, but I'm not trying to spoil that for you. Then we're off to the carnival, where we're beating up strongmen, clowns, and furries. I've always wanted to beat up a furry. The boss battle here is super clever and creative and fits the VR space perfectly, but I don't want to spoil it for you because it's too much fun. Needless to say, I love it a lot. And once you beat that, obviously we're missing something from the 90s. Yeah, you guessed it, ninjas. They were everywhere in the 90s. I remember, you go to school, you'd just see ninjas everywhere. So you ready for ninjas? Because guess what? You're fighting ninjas now. And then after ninjas, wrestlers. Because the 90s would be nothing without pro wrestlers. Give me some Ultimate Warrior, Snake the Jake Roberts, and Hulk Hogan, baby. And in keeping with 90s beat 'em up tradition, the last stage will have you going up against all of the previous enemies from the previous stages and put you up against a corporate bad guy who's been controlling everything, but I don't want to spoil it for you. It's fun. The game is clever in how it gets you fighting, but also in how it delivers a fun, retro-feeling beat-em-up that just tickles your nostalgia bone to no end. This is where I think its true strength lies, especially if you're someone like me who grew up playing these kind of games. What it's looking like is the people that are making video games are my age, like late 30s. Very late 30s. It does have its flaws, and if you know anything about my channel, I'm not afraid to talk about its flaws. One issue that I noticed some people have brought up is that a lot of the characters seem very repetitive. But again, this is a remake of a 90s beat 'em up. Every game back then, it was like the same character with a different colored shirt or outfit on and maybe a different haircut. I don't know. People who complain about this probably didn't grow up in the 90s playing these kinds of games. This is actually common in a lot of retro games, not just beat 'em ups, so I'm not too mad about it. The other complaint that a lot of people have here is that it's repetitive. Well, yeah, f***ing duh. It's a beat 'em up. What did you expect? You literally walk around and beat stuff up. That's what beat 'em ups are. Lastly, and this is my biggest complaint that I share with all of you, it's just too short. Not like me, I mean I'm too short, and not like him from Oakland, but the game itself is just too short. But this is the case for a lot of Quest 2 games, so I can't have them hold this weight too heavily since it's kind of the norm and it is an older game. It's more a limitation of the hardware than the developers. So, things to consider before buying this game. People who get motion sickness really easily, whew, this is really gonna test your limits. And it might have you running for that barf bag really quick. So if that's you, I recommend avoiding it. As much as I love this game, I don't want to see you blow chunks on your brand new Reebok pumps. And also, while it does get you moving, you can't rely on this as a fitness game. If you're brand new, it's a great way to get you started in moving, and it's also a great way to improve your NEAT. Oh, what's your NEAT, you ask? Honestly, don't be too harsh with the criticism here though. It was released in December of 2019. And that's a fairly older game as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure if there's gonna be a sequel, all of these issues would be fixed. Oh dear God, developers, please let there be a sequel, I'm dying! This still holds up as one of my all-time favorite games for the Quest 2. There's a ton of replayability here, and I keep finding myself coming right back to this game whenever nothing else looks good. And for me, lately, that's been a lot. We all have games like that, and this one's mine. You know, one of the best parts of a beat 'em up is when you pick up the knife or the gun. It always seems so unfair. So if you want to hear me talk about these Quest 2 gun grips that the creators did not want me to review, check out this link right here. My name is Ari with FitPro VR, and don't forget to get your workout in today. I'm definitely gonna wear these glasses in my day-to-day life. The hair, not so much, but the glasses, oh, they're staying, yeah. Oh, it's bright in here. Don't like that. Hurts my little eyesies.